Assalamu ala Rasulillah amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another show of Tomorrow's Voice. Alhamdulillah, we're back with another show. Today's topic is one I've been waiting for all summer, I can't lie. I've been waiting for this topic because it's one that I feel like is very relevant to all of us. A lot of the brothers are going back to university, so maybe this topic will help us and maybe we can all benefit from it. Today we have a special guest, of course. We do have Zakariya joining us again on Salaam Radio, but we have another special guest for this first time, his first appearance, Jibril, or otherwise known as Jibi. He is a Hafiz of Quran and he is a Imam at Tawheed Foundation.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. I think that's a good introduction for him, at least, a very impressive one, especially that he's only like 19, 18, same age as us.
JazakAllah.
So, inshallah, one thing I want to start with, which I've been trying to start with every show, is that setting our intentions straight. Of course, we know there's many actions that we do in this world, but if we don't have the correct intentions with those actions, then some of them could be useless, right? If we're not doing it for the right intention, if we're not doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and for Islam and for our religion and for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and for this ummah, then for some of those actions could be wasted. We could not see the fruits of our labor, some would say, yeah? So what I'd want to say for this show is that you listening at home right now, maybe you're in the car, maybe someone just put on Salaam Radio and you think, yo, why is this guy not putting on the tunes or something like that, wherever it is. Maybe you're at home, you're listening to this, maybe on YouTube, maybe on Facebook, you came across this show. And even us sitting here right now, we need to correct our intentions, right? We're here talking about Islam. We're not ustads, we're not scholars, we're not sheikhs, we're not imams, except for Jibril, of course. But we're not here to teach Islam. Instead, we're here to motivate you. We're here to push all of us towards Islam. Right? If anyone can be motivational to each other, right? Just by sharing your story, just by sharing what you know, the lessons that you learn. All of us have a journey in this life. All of us go through tests, through trials, day after day, day after day. We go through these tests and these trials. So we can teach each other. We can motivate each other upon this path. So you listening at home, whether you're in the car, whether you're at home, whatever you're doing right now, inshallah, stay for the full hour. Take this time out to motivate yourself upon the deen. Maybe you've been further from the deen now more than ever. Maybe you're closer now more than ever. Wherever it is, whatever your state of Emaan is, you are listening to this for a reason. Allah chose this podcast to be on at this time for you to listen to it for a reason. So not only, inshallah, will you lot benefit from it, but also we will. See, when we talk about Islam, when we talk about our own journeys, we remind ourselves, right? We remind ourselves how important Islam is, how Allah has helped us throughout these years. Because we can easily forget. It's so easy to forget about what Allah has done for you. It's so easy to be ungrateful as a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's so easy to get into that mindset. So not only are we reminding ourselves, inshallah this will be a reminder for you at home. We'll start with the topic, and the topic is maintaining and increasing your Iman while at university. See, this topic, for me, I could only do it after I experienced it. Right? I went into university. I think I've spoken about this before, even on radio. I went to university with a fresh mind. I didn't know what to expect, but I knew what I had to do. I knew when I go there, I have to find good friends, I have to find good companions, because that's the one thing you hear. As soon as anyone who goes to university says to you, your most important thing is your friends, is the group that you have around you, how they impact your iman, how they literally pick your path for you. And that was the one goal I had in mind. But now, alhamdulillah, leaving my first year of university, I can say that I've fulfilled this goal.
That's me right now.
Exactly. So Jibril is going into his first year of university, so he should already be thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to find those good mates? How am I going to find those good companions? What environments do I have to put myself in? So for me, when I was entering university, the first thing I looked towards was the Islamic society, because that was the first obvious thing in front of me. Was if I want to find good companions, if I want to find good friends, that's the first place to go. There in the prayer room, that was about it. But for some reason, Allah's plan is greater than that, and I met some of them at like McDonald's and like at random places like this, but I still found good companions, alhamdulillah. But I think that goes with everything you do, is you need good companions around you. So inshallah, from that point of good companionship and how that impacts your iman, we can talk about the effects that this has on you. So having good companions around you means that you join this journey together, right? You might feel, as a Muslim, you might be sitting there thinking, I'm alone. But really you're not. Every single one of us is going through the same journey. And a lot of the time we're going through the same hardships, the same difficulties. And one thing that it comes to, I think, is the prayer. Like, we all share in this. We all share in the prayer, and we all have to pray 5 times a day. And that's a responsibility that we have to upkeep ourselves. And it might feel like a personal thing, but a lot of the times your friends, the people around you can help you in this journey, can help you to improve yourself. And of course, it will be personal, like your prayers between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But building that habit in the first place can be something that your friends push you into. Maybe you're even forced into at the beginning, but it will be beneficial for you in the long term, and they know that. That's why they push you into it.
It's very important and valuable to have friends like that. Sometimes you might go out with someone and you might be out with them and you might feel like you need to go and pray, but no one else brings it up and you're shy to bring it up. There are companions like that out there. So if you have companions who, when you make plans, you plan your day around your Salah, we're going to go for Maghrib, then we're going to go for food, and then maybe you go back to the masjid for Isha, and then after that you're going to go for dessert, as you boys do. It's a really valuable thing to have.
Yeah, I think there's a quote: a man is judged by the company he keeps, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, a well-known quote.
Yeah.
But also, like, there's so many hadiths about it as well, that you'll be on the path of your closest companion, and like a bad friend is like being in a coal shop, right? So like if you're at the blacksmith and you're around coal all the time, when you walk out, it's not going to leave you behind. When you walk out of that friendship group, the effects that they had on you, they won't just be when you're in that friendship group, it'll be when you leave that friendship group as well. Even when you walk out, you still smell like coal. You can still see the marks on your body, you can see the marks on your clothes, it'll keep you dirty. So like if you have bad companions, if you have bad friends when you go into university, that's one of the worst things to have. And you should look at it like, at that point you should look at it, you should assess yourself, and you should think, look, either I can continue caring about how they feel and I could just be there, because sometimes a lot of the things that stop people is that you don't want to hurt anyone. So you don't want to leave bad friends just because you don't want to hurt them. So then almost you're strung along, and it's affecting you, it's affecting your Emaan. But at that point, that's where you need to be selfish, because on the Day of Judgment, you'll hold your own burden. They won't be there to save you, and they won't be there to carry it for you. Your own mother will run for you on that day, right? So when you're keeping that in mind, if you have true Emaan, if you have true belief that day will come, right? If we believe in the Day of Judgment, we know that day will come, then you'll take action. Only then will you be able to take action. Only then will you be able to push those friends away and not be afraid of loneliness sometimes. Because in order to find that good group of friends, you have to detach yourselves from the bad.
That's very true. You don't have to wait. You can't keep those friends around and think, when I have other good friends around me, then maybe I'll let these ones go. That's not really how it works sometimes. And that point reminded me a lot about the story of the man who killed 100, which we all know, obviously, without having to delve into it. He was forgiven for his sins merely for the act of trying to move to the other town where he was away from the bad company, away from his past life. And that act that he took, that decision he took, that was enough for him to attain forgiveness for all of his sins. So he hadn't actually, gone out and spend hundreds of hours in ibadah or doing charity work or save lives or any of that. He had made the intention, he had set out on his way to leave that life behind him, and that was enough for him, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, so it goes back to changing your intention. The hadith, innamal a'malu binniyat, actions are only according to intentions.
Yes.
Yeah,
and even that story is so inspiring, because not only did he feel guilt for the sins that he committed, what he then did was he sought out counsel, right? He sought out help, he sought out advice, which is one thing that I think a lot of people can stop at. Like, you'll feel the guilt, you'll feel almost like, not complete like depression, but you'll feel guilty for what you've done, right? You'll remind yourself of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you'll be reminded of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you'll be reminded of those things that you learned in madrasa when you were 5 or when you were 6 or when you were 7. All those stories will come back, rush into your mind, and you'll feel that guilt sitting at home. You'll feel that, and you'll say, why have I sinned? Why have I gone away from Allah? Why am I on this path now? You'll question yourself, but a lot of the times it'll stop there. If you don't take action from that point, sometimes you don't need to go and ask for another person's advice, because you know what you need to do, right? You know you need to cut off the bad and go towards the good and increase yourself in good deeds. But sometimes the situation is that it's so complex, it's so hard to leave it. Sometimes you might need advice. But I think that's where it comes to connection to the masjid. And this is a bit off from the notes we had down, but I think it's important to mention that having a connection to the masjid, having a connection to your local sheikh, your local ustad, wherever it is, someone of knowledge, someone who can benefit you, someone who can give you advice, having a connection with that person means when you need them, they'll be there. When you need that person, when you need that advice, when you're in a bit of a sticky situation, some would say, they'll be there for you, right? it'll be like, if you're close to the masjid, they'll be like they're your normal friend, right? You can message them out of the blue. You can message them at 1 a.m. at night, 2 a.m. at night, wherever, because you're so close to them at that point. You attend the masjid regularly, even if you're not even part of the madrasa, you're not part of the classes. You just attend for salah, and you'll see them. You build a relationship with them, and when you need them, they'll be there for you. And I think all of us can relate to that connection with the masjid, how that changed us, even as Muslims. Like you might be sitting there at home thinking, Alhamdulillah, I'm good. Like I've been praying at home, all 5 prayers. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this. But only until you actually go out to your local masjid and you start attending it and you start like taking part there, only then will you see the effects from it. And I think that's an important point to keep in mind.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a very important point. Sometimes you might feel like no one really understands what you're going through as well, especially teenagers. Teenagers will fall into that category where they're going through something and they think, all of these elders, they have no idea what they're talking about. They don't know what life is like for us.
I just feel like that.
Yeah. So they might be afraid, they might be reluctant to go to the masjid and speak to a sheikh or speak to even just a regular attendee, someone who can give them some advice, a teacher, a friend, whoever it is. And you'll realize that you have a lot more in common with these people, and sometimes they've been through exactly what you've been through.
Yeah.
And you would never have known unless you went and took that step to go speak to them.
Yeah. I think, especially as a teenager, I think feeling that sense of you're alone in this journey is such an easy thing to feel. It's easy to sit there at the end of your bed at the end of the night and feel like you're there alone. Like no one else has ever felt this pain that you felt. No one else has ever gone through this trial that you went through. No one else has ever gone through this test that you went through. It's easy to feel that way. But when you understand that every single person in this world is being tested, is being tried in their own way, and other people have gone through exactly what you've gone through, and they're there to advise you, they're there to help you. When you realize that and you step out of your comfort zone, you ask them for help, you ask them for advice, you'll see the amount of Muslims in this world that will help you just by even reaching out, just by giving them salam, and just by even mentioning 1 or 2 words saying that, I need help with this. You'll see the lengths and the bounds that they'll go through just to help you in any way that they can, whether it's financially, whether it's emotionally, whether it is with accommodation, whatever it is. A lot of the times Muslims are very generous in that factor. So never think you're alone in this. Like the ummah is so huge now, like there's 2 billion of us. You really think no one out of those 2 billion went through the same things you're going through? No one out of those 2 billion. And in a time like this, especially with social media and that, you can reach out to those people so easily. Like you don't actually have to meet that person in person to actually get that advice. You can call them, you can ring them, you can email them. If there's a sheikh that if there's a imam, you can send an email. Even if you know that they attend if you don't have the email and they attend a certain masjid and they give talks at that masjid, you can email the masjid, you can go to the masjid, you can speak to the committee. There's so many steps you can take to receive that advice, to receive that help. It's just about you taking action. That's the only thing stopping you at that point. And I think one thing to also add on, we did move off the main point a little bit, but taking it back to the main point, that establishing your prayer through good companions, and what this does for you is it adds a huge routine effect into your life. When you need to wake up for Fajr, when you have to be awake for Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and you might be confused when I say you have to be awake for Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, but a lot of the time uni students, they sleep during the day as well. It's actually the opposite there. You sleep during the day and then you're awake during the night. So when you have to be awake for Maghrib and you have to be awake for Asr, it means you cannot ruin your routine as such. You have to be awake for those times. You have to pray. And if you don't, you'll feel the effects yourself. No one else will be punished for it. No one else will feel the effects. Only you'll feel the effects, right? Even if you have good companions and they brought you upon the right path and they taught you how to pray and they showed you how to make dua, how to read the Quran, wherever it is, when you eventually, because obviously we have times of Emaan high and Emaan low. When you do eventually miss a salah, or you do something wrong, or even delay your salah at fact, like when you do something like that, only you'll feel the effect. Only you'll feel it in your heart. They won't feel it because they're still praying. They're still doing dua, they're still reading Quran. So this is something personal for you. And I think it's so amazing that a lot of Muslims that start praying, that start practicing, if you really think about it, if you really look at it, they become so dependent upon it. And that's such an amazing thing, because even they can't even miss a day. If you miss a day of prayer, the effects it'll have on their heart, they'll feel like their whole life is empty. Even though they're going work, even though their life in essence is exactly the same. Like if you look at it factually, they might still have the same job, they might have the same income, the same money, the same food as the day before, but they might be missing their prayer, and that will affect their mood so much. It'll affect their mental state so much. It'll have such a big impact on them. And so when you start practicing, when you start relying upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and only Him, that's when you see the effects of it. And that's when people look at the religion and they think it's almost like, I can't do this, it's haram. I can't do this, it's haram. They kind of feel like they're shackled. But only when you start practicing, only when you start following, you realize you're more free, right? Instead of following society and what society tells you to think, you're following Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what He tells you to do. And that's when true freedom comes. Because that's when you don't need to test the waters to see what's good for you, what's bad for you. Allah tells you what's good for you and what's bad for you. Allah is giving you the guidance. You just have to accept it. You just have to read it. You just have to implement it. It's all up to you at that point.
And that's a very good point, I think, especially about how people might feel sometimes that the religion has been reduced by some people maybe to just a bunch of rules, do's and don'ts. But then, as you spoke about the prayer, it reminded me a lot about how, keeping that schedule, getting up early in the morning. There's a reason why in the Adhan it said, "Come to prayer, come to success." There's a direct link there between your prayer and your success, not just in the next life, but in this dunya as well. So as many of us probably know, the most wealthy among us, the most productive among us, are usually the ones who wake up the earliest. They'll be up at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. They'll go to the gym. They'll make a breakfast. They'll have a shower. Then they'll go to work, and then they start earning. And psychologically, we all know as well that when you're awake in the morning, your brain is most active. That's the best time for you to be learning things, seeking knowledge. Even if you're not going to be seeking knowledge, Islamic knowledge, go out and earn your money.
Yeah.
It's still good for you. If you have the right intentions, you'll be rewarded for that also. So keeping that routine, that is something that your salah does for you. You might feel like it's an obligation sometimes, but if anything, it's almost a reward when you really get into it. It keeps you disciplined, keeps your day structured, and I think another important point about salah is what it is really is you speaking to Allah, and Allah taking the time, obviously to listen to you, and people can really appreciate this. If you think about, if I was to say to my brother here or to Jibril, I'm gonna come and see you 5 times a day, I'm gonna knock on your door, I'm going to sit down with you for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and we're going to have a chat every single day. We're going to do that. How long would you be able to keep that up for me? You're going to say, no, I got work, I got to go here. Maybe not even.
The first knock.
Yeah, I think going back to that point even about the adhan, I think what's amazing even about even the adhan for Fajr, where it says that surely the prayer is better than the sleep, right? It's declaring to us, it's telling us what is good for us, what is bad for us. It's surely the prayer is better than you sleeping right now, right? Getting up for that morning prayer is something that's so underestimated, the effects that it has on the heart. You're getting up at a time where no one's messaging you, no one's ringing you, no one's telling you, yo, jump out. Or maybe at uni they are, but in general, no one even give you time at that time. They're all sleeping, everyone's in their beds, everyone's ignoring you, no one's paying attention to you. But at that time, at 4, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., whatever time it is at that part of the year, whatever time it is at that part of the year, Allah will be there for you. Allah will answer your call. Even before then, even before the Fajr Salah, in the last third of the night, He calls out for His servants, saying, who's asking for forgiveness so that I can forgive them. So at that time, when everyone else in this dunya is ignoring you and tending to their own sleep and not sacrificing their own sleep to talk to you when you're in pain, when you're going through hardship, when you're going through trials, even if you went to counsel for them, right? If you went to counsel to a sheikh or imam or anyone, no one with the right mind would be there for you every single day at 4 a.m. to help you, right? They'll be sleeping. They'll have other things to do. Maybe they got a job in the morning, maybe they got other things to do. But Allah is there for you every single night. Whatever hardship you're going through, whether even if you're not going through a hardship, whether you're going through calamity or not, He's still there. Even if it's good times, He's still there to help you, to listen to you, to answer your call, right? It doesn't matter what's happening in your life, Allah will always be there for you. As long as there's breath in your lungs and there's a heartbeat in your body, Allah is there for you. So never feel hopeless in the fact that you're sinning, or in the fact that your calamity has hit, in the fact that you're doing something bad and you're on the wrong path. The fact that you're still alive, the fact that your heart is still beating, the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is still sustaining you, shows you that there's still time, shows you that He'll still answer your call.
I think that's a really important point for people going to uni as well, because when people go to uni, they tend to feel really lonely.
Yeah.
But I think when you establish your prayer, you kind of take the worry away from you. the loneliness, and it's a form of remembrance as well. So in the Quran it says, فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ وَاشْكُرُوا لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. So remember me and I will remember you. And it says in the Quran also that prayer is a form of remembrance. إِنَّنِي أَنَا اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا فَاعْبُدْنِي وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِي. Establish prayer so that you may remember me. So obviously, remembering Allah in times of need, also in times of success as well, so that He will remember you when you're in need. So yeah.
And with that remembrance, you have to remember, like, when you're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not a burden, it's not something that hurts you, it's something that brings you to rest, right? The remembrance of Allah brings you to peace, brings you to rest. It almost brings comfort to your heart. And it's something that when you master it, your life will change. At the beginning, when you first start practicing, it's hard, it's not easy. Everyone knows those struggles, everyone knows those hardships, everyone knows those difficulties. But when you master the art of even doing ibadah, of having khushu, of having that concentration, that's when you literally change your whole life. You change your perspective. When you look back on your life now, from the years before when you weren't praying, it would almost seem like a blur. Like you can't even remember those years. You don't know what life is like without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't know what life is like without talking to Him every night. Right? It becomes part of who you are. It becomes part of your heart. And I think the next point that we have down is making dua and turning to Allah first. Like when you sin, when you do something wrong, even in times of calamity, when something goes wrong, whether you lost your job, whether someone has died in your family, whatever it is, turn to Allah first. Right? Calamity hits you. Allah wants to see, who do you go to first? Who do you ask for help first? Right? Do you go to your friend? Do you go to your neighbor? Do you go to of course, I'm not saying don't go to these people. You should still go to these people. But a good habit to have, and I think a habit that's helped all of us, is if you prioritize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and you turn to Him first, then you'll see your problem will be solved in a way through someone else. So someone can become a means of solving your problem. But that could have only happened because you turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. You showed Him that in this world where I have so many eyes and ears around me, I chose to speak to you out of everyone in this world. Even though I can't see you, even though I can't hear you, I still spoke to you. I still turned to you with my problems. I still raised my hands and spoke to you because you're the only one I can turn to at this point. You're the only one I turn to, the only one I rely upon. And that goes back to the point about prayer. Like when you realize that you're dependent on your prayer, your life feels empty. It's just full of like almost depression if you don't pray. When you realize that you're dependent on the prayer, that's when you get to a point when calamity hits, when problems hit, you raise your hands for dua and you turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And anyone who does that, if you raise your hands, if you make your sajda, if you do whatever it is, even if you read Quran, you won't enter that state, you won't enter that type of ibadah and leave it with the same heart. You leave it feeling better. You leave it feeling, even if you don't feel better, you leave it feeling a solution is coming, is around the corner. Maybe you might have new ideas. Maybe you might have a way of solving your issue. Whatever it is, your state going in won't be the same state as you come out as.
That's 100% true. I think that point of turning to Allah as soon as you're struck with difficulty is a really profound one. You see it not just within people who believe in God, but even among the atheists, when they're in situations where their life is on the line. A lot of the times they will call out to God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they will, and people don't really
say Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Straight away they turn to religion. And I think, when it comes down to it, even like your life itself, like everyone, the one topic I've seen a lot is that a lot of people don't want to think about death. They don't want to talk about death. They like to ignore it, like it's not even a topic, like it's not even reality, like it's not something that happen. And you can test this yourself if you bring it up at school. If you ask a question to a biology teacher about death, about human death, how do we deal with it, what's after, they'll have a huge debate, or they just won't talk about it at all. Right?
I mean, even amongst Muslims, amongst your own family, bring up the topic, see how people react. Yeah. And of course, we know when we remember death, we remember what's after it. The day of judgment, being resurrected, standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing to remember death, because it reminds you that this world isn't everything. And it can even bring comfort to your heart. When you remember death and you remember that this world is just temporary in your times of hardship, in times of calamity, it means that you're telling yourself this hardship, this calamity, this test, this trial, whatever I'm feeling right now is temporary.
and that will help you inshallah in the long run. And I think we will be leading into a break now inshallah soon. I just want to summarize what we've gone over. So we did a short introduction. We introduced Jibril inshallah into the Salaam Radio space. We talked about setting our intentions. We talked about establishing good friends. We talked about establishing your prayer at university, establishing a bit of khushu, how it adds routine, how if you leave it, it feels like you're depressed almost, that you can't leave the salah, you become dependent upon it, making dua and turning to Allah, never letting sins hold you back and hopelessness, always turning back to Allah and turning to Him first. And inshallah after the break we'll go into khushu, we'll go into studying, we'll go into halal society activities, we'll go into taking responsibility, we'll go into charity events and making a difference to society. So, and also we'll be covering how dressing modesty can change how you're treated almost by other Muslims, like they give you salam and things like that. So thank you for this. Going into the break.
Stay tuned to Salaam Radio after this short ad break.
Discover peace of mind with Islamic wills from W&P Legal and Mariam Khan. Expertly tailored to respect Islamic principles and UK law, ensuring your legacy is honoured. We offer tax-efficient wills, probate, lasting power of attorney and more. Trust us for a culturally sensitive estate plan. Your legacy, our priority. Call W&P Legal now on 01778 252 301.
Attention foodies! Discover a world of flavours at Pack Foods, the largest ethnic supermarket in Peterborough. Shop our vast selection of authentic ingredients from around the globe, including spices, marinated fish and meats, and exotic fruits at incredibly low prices. And the best part? We offer free parking. No more hunting for a spot. Come visit us today and explore the incredible range of flavours at Pack Foods, 232 Lincoln Road.
Bite into something wonderfully tasty at Big Mouth, 349 Lincoln Road in Peterborough. Eating in for takeaway or delivery, Big Mouth now have a delicious new menu full of all your favourites. Crispy fried chicken, juicy smashed burgers, finger-licking peri-peri chicken, handmade pizzas, quality doner meat and so much more. So visit the family-friendly Big Mouth restaurant for fantastically fresh food. Call 01733 201020 or visit getbigmouthonline.com.
Could you spare a few hours each month to provide support to people who are going through tough times? If so, Peterborough Samaritans are looking for volunteers who are empathetic and open-minded, and we'd love to hear from you. We run regular information sessions where you can find out more about what it means to volunteer for Samaritans. If you are at least 18 years of age and would like to know more, please email volunteer@peterboroughsamaritans.org.
Fancy the true taste of Middle Eastern Kurdish food? Asia Restaurant gives you the unique fusion of flavours from Turkey, Iraq, Syria and Iran. Eat in at 5 Fitzwilliam Street, Peterborough, PE1 2RU. Or order through Just Eat, Uber Eats or order through our website, asiarestaurant.co.uk. Call us on 01733 562 530. Asia Restaurant, the true taste of the Middle East.
Are you looking for a career where you can make a difference? At Cross Keys Homes, we work with our local communities to create opportunities that change lives. We're looking for enthusiastic, talented people to join our team, from apprenticeships to senior management positions. Cross Keys Homes can support your development while you enjoy great employee benefits. There are so many opportunities for you to shine. Apply to join the Cross Keys Homes team at crosskeyshomes.co.uk.
365 days a year. This is Salaam Radio.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum salam.
We've returned from our break now, alhamdulillah, and today I'm joined by, as you probably would have heard if you were listening to the first half of the show, Zain, my brother, and Jibril, also my brother, alhamdulillah.
Wow. I see how it is.
Yeah.
We have changed presenters as well. I was getting a bit tired, so I thought I'll switch you up. So I gave him the hot seat. Inshallah, he does well.
Inshallah,
no pressure.
inshallah.
But moving on to the next topic. What is the next topic?
So the next topic is studying knowledge at universities, which will include, going to classes, talks, weekly reminders, things like that. I think before we covered things like khushu, how to find your friends, establishing your prayer. Maybe we didn't touch on khushu as much as we should have. It's something that we can also bring into this second half of the show. So just starting off now with seeking knowledge. I think we had a talk just last week by our friend Abdul Raqib and Malik about seeking knowledge and the virtues of that. So if you wanna learn more about that in detail, you should refer back to that talk. But for us, especially now, in the context of university, how should you go about seeking knowledge? You've established your friends like we spoke about before, so you've got your group now. Where should you go? Which classes should you attend? Where should your focus be, for example? So really, I guess that's something that depends on where you are in your journey. Have you seeked knowledge before? What is your knowledge like in terms of fiqh? What is it in terms of aqidah?
I think at university, at least, it's kind of like a domino effect, right? So you start with, of course, finding that good group of friends, which we mentioned at the beginning. It's such an important thing to find that good group of friends, because they start the domino effect, right? They push you into your salah. They tell you, yo, it's time to pray, yo, it's time for Isha. They ring you for Fajr and they wake you up for Fajr. Sometimes you might pray in Jamaat, sometimes you might not, whatever it is, but they make sure you're praying at least, right? They get you into that habit and they bring you into it. And then it goes into your own connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making that dua, turning to Him is more of a personal thing. But then seeking knowledge is something you can do together. And you'll see that normally it does start as a domino, that you'll see that anyone who starts practicing always starts with the salah, because it's one of the most important actions. To leave the salah is such a bad thing to do that the Sahabas couldn't even think about it, leaving the salah, someone leaving the salah, right? It's such a bad act to do in that sense. So you'll always normally start with the salah, and sometimes people start with studying knowledge, right? People that go madrasa, people that go school, people that go to these places of knowledge, sometimes they'll start by doing hifz, and then they'll start praying, or they start by learning some sort of Islamic course, and then they'll start praying. So sometimes the knowledge that you learn can improve you in fear, right? Fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and even hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing who He is, knowing how forgiveful He is, knowing how merciful He is. It pushes you towards the salah, pushes you towards even khushu. We mentioned khushu as well before, that studying knowledge is a huge part of khushu, because knowing who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, it's like when you stand in front of, like if you're standing in front of a sheikh when you're younger, right, you'd always make sure your salah is very slow, very calculated, very calm. You wouldn't rush your salah in front of your teacher, because you're fearful of your teacher, and you also know, if my teacher's watching me and I do it really quickly, he's gonna shout at me afterwards. So you always do it slow. And same thing if your mum's watching, if your dad's watching. When you're young, you always improve your salah when others are watching. So taking that same theory into effect, when you study about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His qualities, His names, when you study about His attributes, when you study about how merciful He is, how much He sustains you, all these type of things, I think it adds so much to your khushu in your prayer, because you know exactly who you're standing in front of. It's like ihsan, for example, right? You worship Allah like you see Him. And if you cannot worship Him like you see Him, you worship Him knowing that He can see you. And that effect on someone's heart, when you've really studied Islam, is something amazing. And it actually transforms your ibadah. Sometimes it can act like a burden at the beginning, but it takes it from being that burden into a blessing, into something that's enjoyable, something that you love to do. You want to do more ibadah.
Yeah, I think building on the khushu', some people are like dissuaded from praying because sometimes they don't focus on their prayers. But I think like with me, what helped me with like focusing on my prayers was learning the meaning of just what you're saying in prayer. First of all, that's an important thing. And also, if you really want to improve on your prayer, I think the first step should be, it starts with the intention as well. So like having the intention to fix your prayers, and that will go a long way as well. And then obviously making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you, improve your prayer as well. I mean, as you said before, people make dua for materialistic things.
Yes.
Like, I hate asking for money, this, that. But if you're sitting in prayer and you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to, increase your khushu' and help you build on your prayer, then inshallah it'll be granted. And it'll add some sweetness to your prayer as well. So you start enjoying it more. It'll add some coolness to the heart.
And plus, I think it's an amazing thing to ask for. Like, imagine you're sitting in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're worshipping Him, and then after the salah is done, you're asking Him, help me worship you better. And you can't ask for a better thing than that, right? You can't pray for a better thing than that. Asking to improve your ibadah, because we're here in this world to worship Him, to establish our ibadah. So ask Him to improve it, whether it's in studying, whether it's in praying, whether it's in dua, whether it's in even your career. That can be a form of ibadah for you as well.
That's a very important point. Ask Allah for help in terms of when you're establishing your prayer. Never think that even when you're doing good deeds, that it's just from you. I'm doing it, I should be rewarded. I'm such a good person. All of these things. Never get that arrogance in your head. And again, this point that you brought up really reminded me again of the adhan, and the part of the adhan especially is when you hear the muadhin say hayya ala salah and hayya ala falah. For the rest of the adhan, you're just repeating what he is saying. But when he says that, you say la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, and that's supposed to ring a bell in your head. That's supposed to tell you that he's calling you to prayer, and your response to him is, I can't do it without Allah allowing me to do it. There's no power, there's no might except for Allah. So that's a very, very profound point, I think, to remember that without His help, you're not going to be able to do anything. Make dua first as well. Especially, I think, from my own experience, one thing that even, people, students of knowledge, people who've been praying for years, people who feel like they're close to Allah, sometimes even they will miss Fajr, for example. They're not maybe as strict with their sleeping patterns. Students, especially at university, you're out with your friends, for example. It's tempting for you to stay up at night, and you'll miss your salah in the morning. So another point there is to make dua that Allah helps you to wake up for Fajr. Sometimes you could be on 2 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep, but somehow you just, randomly you'll get up, you'll have that willpower to get up and pray. Whereas sometimes you might have slept for 10 hours, but you haven't asked Allah to help you, and it's still difficult for you to wake up for Fajr. So without that, the inspiration, by the will of Allah, you'll be able to carry out these deeds.
Yeah, I think taking it back to like studying knowledge, especially at university, you'll see when you go to university, you have to seek out the knowledge, you have to seek out the classes, you have to seek out the talks. Like for example, at my university, you'd only know about the Islamic talks, Islamic lectures, if you follow the ISOC Instagram page, or if you're in the ISOC group chats and things like that. Like, you'd only know about these classes if you were actually already in the community. So the first step you do when you go to university is you join the community, join the society, join the group chat, and keep an eye out for classes. A lot of the time, there's an academy called like Roots Academy, and what they do is they go into universities and they provide lessons and classes. They provide it on like Tazkiyah, they can do it on Aqidah, they can do it on the Seerah as well. Like, they do so many classes like this, and I think they provide for quite a lot of universities. And so throughout the year, if you join the group chat and you look out for the Roots Academy like classes, I'd hugely recommend it, because it adds a routine. Like, you and your friends join up, you meet up, you link up, wherever it is, whatever term, you link up just to go attend that class, right? The class might be 7 p.m. to 8, 9 p.m, right? So you meet up at 6 straight after your lectures, you go to the class, even if it's at a different uni. I remember, because I'm at University of Leicester, and they didn't have the classes for a while. The whole first term, they didn't have any Islamic classes. So what we did was, we went to the DMU Islamic classes instead, because there was Roots Academy in DMU. So we went to their Tazkiyah classes instead. So if you really want to study, if you really want to improve your knowledge, if you really want to improve your khushu, if you really want to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's you who has to seek it out. Only you can do it. Only it's you who is responsible for yourself. Like your parents aren't going to enter you in madrasa anymore. Not while you're at university, right? You can't just depend on them to enter you into these classes, to force you to go, to pack your bag for you and all that, right? You have to take some initiative. You have to do it yourself at that point. I think that's hugely important to really enter that community, have those reoccurring classes. And if you can't find it at university, if you can't find it in your university, go to the local mosques. There's plenty of local mosques in a lot of cities, and you'll see there's posters up there, tajweed classes, akidah classes, wherever it is, fiqh classes. Go to your local mosque, even if they're a different madhab to you, or even if they're a different sect to you, it doesn't matter. If the knowledge is beneficial, you should go and attend those gatherings.
Yeah, the opportunities are there. The most places you go, whichever city you're in, alhamdulillah, there'll be a masjid somewhere, there'll be a madrasa somewhere, you'd find a teacher somewhere. And, but it reminds me of one of my friends who's gone to a university which is really in the middle of nowhere. He's gone there to study medicine, and he really misses Peterborough and stuff, because we have massages here. He doesn't have any of that. It's a very sort of conservative area. So let's say you're in a situation now where you've looked around, you can't find anything. Worst comes to worst, there's online. These phones you have in your pocket and these laptops you have in your bags, they're such big blessings, and we don't even realize. You can call up a teacher in Pakistan, for example. Let's say you don't even want to fork out the money to pay for a teacher in the UK. You pay him,
50 rupees an hour.
Yeah. Basically peanuts for you, and he'll give you one-to-one sessions, so the opportunities are always there. There's no excuse really. If you want to seek knowledge, it's there in abundance, whether it's in person or online. You just have to take that first step, and inshallah you'll discover how much you didn't know.
Yeah, I think moving on to the next point, where it's about halal social activities. Of course, when you're going to university, a lot of the time people are going there, and you can't always fill your time with studying. You can't always fill your time with ibadah. There has to be somewhere where you kind of unwind, you relax, and it's not haram for you to do so, right? It's not haram for you to have a dinner out with your friends, to go out for dessert, to go play football, to go play wherever it is, even if it's like golf or tennis, whatever sport you're interested in. It doesn't even have to be a sport. You could go for a hike if you want, go for a walk, go to a theme park, wherever it is. Make sure you have this included in your year, because when you go to university, a lot of the times it's so easy to get caught up in university life, right? Filling your time with some, obviously don't fill all your time with it, but having some social events where you build memories, right? So if you, let's say you took this advice and you went to the ISOC and you found some good brothers, and now you're starting to chill with them, you're starting to go classes, you're starting to pray with them. Now plan a trip, plan a day trip out with them, maybe a weekend trip, something like that, because those memories that you build with those brothers at that time is priceless, right? You're meeting brothers from around the UK. What other time would you have to do this? You're networking with brothers around the UK. What other time do you have to do this? You're building memories with brothers you didn't even grow up with, not even from your community, from different communities, different areas, different villages, different countries. And at this time is the time for you to network, to meet more Muslim brothers, to build connections in different cities. And who knows, maybe a day will come where you're stranded in a city and you might need their help, right? And at that point, you'll think back to these moments and be like, thank God I did this, thank God I met this guy, right?
And you never know how easy it is until you've done that. People might be afraid. They might think, going to these events, they might be shy, they might be nervous. They might think, maybe they might not be as welcoming as I expect them to be. But you realize that, it's the beauty of our religion. And this is something I experienced through UKIM, or even traveling, when we were in Saudi Arabia recently, alhamdulillah. Wherever you go, any brother you find, any sister you find, you're going to have this common greeting that you've already got. You're going to say assalamu alaikum to them. You have this connection already without even knowing who this person is. They could have been a different part of the world, a different experience, a different background, different ethnicity, whatever it is. You might even speak different languages. But you already have this one common point that brings you closer together. And I think, bringing that back towards, in the context of university, going out to these social events, going to especially national ones, like you mentioned, where you can network with brothers from other parts of the country, that can help you a lot. Charity events, so once you're on this journey of seeking knowledge, for example, you realize that you feel this responsibility now, this duty that you need to give back to the community. How can you help others who are in the situations you were in before, to bring them closer to Allah? Whether you're helping them in the context of bringing them closer to Allah, or just helping them in terms of dunya. You're going out, you're finding people who are struggling financially or emotionally. You're giving them that support, that encouragement, that guidance that they need. You're really fulfilling your duty, and I think that's a key point. We all feel like we have this responsibility. There's opportunities out there, even at university, to join these organizations, these charities, Islamic Relief, for example. They have crazy amounts of events. They're always in need of volunteers. So never feel like there's no opportunity there for you to go and to help your community, to give back, add some value, through the skills that you've learned, the knowledge you've learned. Even if you feel like you don't have the Islamic knowledge, maybe you've got knowledge in another area. You might be a software engineer, you might be a mathematician, you might be a doctor, an engineer. You go out, you give those skills back to the community. You help out your brothers and sisters in Islam as well, inshallah.
Yeah, I think charity events in general, like, if you have the correct intentions and you're doing it for the right reasons, it can be so beneficial for you, right? So in giving back, so when you reach a point, like I said, it's a domino effect the whole way. You'll reach a point where you realize, I'm studying, I'm learning, I'm improving my own Emaan, I'm on this path where I'm getting better and better every day. Every minute that passes, I'm getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My friendship group is a big friendship group. I've got good friends around me, I've got good companions around me. We all help each other, we all improve each other. And now you look to the point of, how do I help the ummah? How do I bring other brothers that were in the same path I was in, that were in the same difficulties I was in, same calamities I was in, how do I bring them upon the right path now? And when you reach that point, that's when you start getting yourself involved with charities, organizations, and it's endless, really. There's so many out there. Even like a couple that you mentioned, Islamic Relief, Human Appeal, all these type of charities. Like, if you seek it out, same with knowledge, right? People who go to university in general and don't follow these steps, they'll go to university and they'll be like, yo, there's no classes going on at uni, there's no this, there's no that. But they're not seeking it. In order to make a difference, in order to help out with the charity events, to volunteer, you still have to seek it, right? You have to message Human Appeal on Instagram, you have to get the volunteers form, you have to sign up, you have to join the group chat, you have to put yourself forward for an event, you have to raise money, do fundraising, maybe you're doing a Snowdon climb, wherever it is, maybe you're bike riding to Amsterdam, they did that recently as well. So there's so many opportunities out there, you have to seek it. If you want to make a difference to the ummah, if you want to make a difference to your society. And of course, charities, I feel like, are more like national based. It makes a difference nationally a lot of the time. But even your local community, and that's where the masjids come into place, right? We're running events at the masjid, whether it's a youth club, whether it's a halaqah, wherever it is, whatever you're running at the masjid, as long as it's beneficial for yourself, beneficial for the attendees, the people who go there, and you realize, if you do it with your brothers, if you do it with the friendship group that you started with, it'll bring you so much more close together, right? Whatever it is that you choose to do, maybe it's a radio, maybe it's a podcast, whatever it is that you choose to do to spread Islam, to bring others, to motivate others. Like I said, you don't have to be a star, you don't have to be a sheikh or a teacher or anything like that, but you can still motivate other people. You can still share your stories, share your experiences, share all the things you've been through, and help others to come back from the path that you came from, right? And I think that's an amazing thing to do.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. And the point about charity as well, people always try to find excuses. Maybe there's not a charity available nearby. So let's say you're in a situation now, hypothetically, where there's no charity nearby that you can go out and help. Obviously, I don't think there's anyone probably in this country who's in that situation where there's no charities nearby that can help out. Let's say they also say, I've got no knowledge that I can benefit people with, for example. So your point about starting locally, and as we know, the best charity is the one that starts at home as well. So be good to your family, be good to your friends. Even something as small as a smile can be a charity from you. So if you got broke, you got no money, you got no assets, you got no knowledge in your head, the least you can do, just go give someone a smile. We can all smile, alhamdulillah. So you never feel like you don't have the means to help others. You always have that. And that's the beauty of our religion, and the importance of charity is is mentioned a lot in a lot of verses, a lot of hadith. And one that really sticks with me is the hadith about the actions that you do that can carry on beyond your death and benefit you beyond your death. So there are 3 actions which, once you have left this world, can still benefit you. Knowledge that you've passed on to someone, beneficial knowledge that you've passed on. So if you've taught someone something, I guess whether it's Islamic knowledge or just general knowledge about the dunya, so you've helped someone, you've mentored someone, a brother or a sister in your community, for example, and they're benefiting from that knowledge, then that's something that inshallah you'll be rewarded for. The other thing was a righteous child who makes dua for you. So if you're blessed enough to have children and you've done your work, you've raised them in the right way, and they're pious, they're righteous, and then when you've passed on from this world, they're making dua for you. Again, that will benefit you greatly. So let's say there's someone again who's also making excuses in this and saying, I've got no children. Let's say I've got no knowledge, I can't do any of that. So what do I do now? Sadaqah jariyah. You give some charity that's going to last. You contribute towards a masjid, you contribute towards a madrasa, for example. Anything that will last, anything that will benefit people, even when you're gone. Even if you've got a £5 note in your pocket, go and put it in the bucket. Don't feel ashamed. It's gonna help out, and inshallah, that small act could be, you never know, that could be what takes you into Jannah. So never underestimate the value of it and the importance of it, inshallah.
Yeah, and I think adding on to the point about so helping out at charities, helping out at local events, all those type of things, a lot of the time you'll realize it, to help out, to even organize them takes a lot of confidence, right? To stand at the front of a gathering and to speak takes a lot of confidence. And maybe it's not for you, maybe it's not for everyone, right? But you always have a part to play. You always need volunteers, you always need people in the background that sometimes aren't always seen, but sometimes they're the ones that are rewarded the most because they do the most amount of work. There's so many people I can think about at a masjid that do so much work, but no one ever knows about it, right? And we all have a role to play, we all have a part to play, we all have something to give and something to give back. Even how you mentioned about your profession, the profession that you choose, whether it's software engineering, coding, whether it's even in psychology, giving therapy to other Muslims that need it, things like that, you can always give back to the ummah. And if you do it for free, that would be a charity for you then, because you're benefiting the ummah, you're benefiting Muslims around you, right? Everyone has a role to play, everyone was put in this dunya for a reason. We are given these gifts, whatever your gift is, everyone has a gift. There's no one who doesn't have something they can do, right? Everyone can do something. So we always have something to give back. So find what it is that you need to give back and then start giving it, inshallah. I think that's the best thing when it comes to charity events, when it comes to local events. I think that's the best mindset to really have. Yeah, I agree. And especially the point about, teaching what you know, what you're skilled at. Imagine, in our masjid, for example, we've got thousands of attendees. We've got professionals, we've got doctors, engineers, everything. Imagine they were all there and they were all available for these kids, especially in university, these kids doing their A-levels who are trying to start their careers, they're thinking about what they want to go into. I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer, I want to do this, but I need my work experience, I need to get my foot through the door somehow. I don't know how to do it, I don't know anyone in this field. Maybe you've got a family of refugees, or you've got a family who've migrated from another country, they don't have other family here. They don't have those networks, those branches there. Go to the masjid, ask around. You'll find a doctor, you'll find an engineer, you'll find someone who works in finance, someone who works in this field or that field, whatever you're interested in. You'll find that person. Approach them, ask them. Inshallah, they might be able to get you some work experience. They might be able to get you a small internship, even if you're not getting paid for it. Put that on your CV, and inshallah, it'll help you develop as well. It'll help you build a connection to someone you might not have never even spoken to before, and it'll help you drive your work towards your career. It will put something on your CV, help you get into university. Just getting your foot through that door, inshallah, opening up that network, exploring your options, and inshallah, it'll be made easy for you if you really try for it. And we have a few minutes left on our show, and the final topic we have to discuss is dressing modestly and how it changes how people treat you. And this, I guess, is in the context of a university, but also generally for anyone else who's not at university, who's listening to this show today, and the importance of it, for example. So not just, sometimes there's more of a focus on how women dress in Islam and, the obligations that they have,
but also how it applies to men, how we should apply it in our lives. You know, not just the clothes that we wear, but so not,
Yeah, I think for the men at least, like you said, a lot of the time we do focus on the women. We do focus on, like even on TikTok, on Instagram, you'll see so many posts. You have to wear the hijab, you have to do this, have to do that. I think for men, although our awra is just between our knees and our navel, but I think it's so important for us to even wear jubbeh, to wear thobes around. Even at university, you'll see how many brothers give you salam when you're wearing a thobe, when you're wearing a jubbah, when you're wearing a topi. It'll actually change you. Like, I remember I was with one of my brothers at university, right? And he would see it in effect. He would see me wearing a thobe and people giving me salam, and he was amazed by how amazing it was. And I think having that society, having those people around you, them giving you salam just because of the clothes you're wearing is an amazing thing to do.
That's a good point, and that's a good point to end on, inshallah. Thank you all for listening to our show today. Alhamdulillah, we covered a wide range of topics, and we hope to speak to you again soon, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Stay tuned to